A production house which works on ad films and things like that has a big portion of these capabilities.
Mm,
Digital media agency, they have a lot of
mm,
contacts, they can get a lot
mm.
of people on board. So why Ranks versus going to a production house or a digital media agency?
Correct. So again, great question, right? Let me break that down from a production house, a video
Hmm.
production house, right? And we
Hmm.
know so many of this. We also worked with so many of
Yeah.
this. They understand video production, right? But they don't have the infrastructure to a lot of times conceptualize it. They don't have a deep understanding of podcasts in terms of even understanding how do you name this particular podcast, right? What type of guests do you call? They don't really understand the business part of it, right? They know how
Hmm.
to produce a video, but they can't connect how is this podcast going to help your business growth in some way, right? They can't do that connection. That's where our expertise really
Hmm.
comes in, right?
Hmm.
The next part that a video production agency can't do in most
Hmm.
cases is they do not have the infrastructure to do the guest coordination, the
Hmm.
guest follow up, because like I said, that is almost a parallel sales activity, right?
Yeah.
To get the right guests on board. So most production agencies don't have the infrastructure to do that. They don't have the expertise to do that. And that's why it tends to die down, right? If you say, if any company says, listen, I'm going to call the guests and you just, shoot this thing, maybe they'd be able to do it, right? Because, and that's what most companies are doing right now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's why they can
Hmm.
shoot 3 to 7 episodes and then the entire initiative fizzles out, right?
Hmm.
And this has happened again and again and again and again, right? Only the companies that outsource it to the right kind of podcast experts like us
Hmm.
internationally, those are the only people that have managed to kind of really build a sustainable podcast and therefore see the business impact of building that sustainable long-term podcast, right? So yeah, that would be my answer to that, right? If I have to summarize again quickly, lack of understanding of how to conceptualize it. Number two, I think not an in-depth understanding of how podcasts connect to business growth in some
Hmm.
way, right? And number three, I think video production companies more often than not don't have the infrastructure of getting the right guests because it requires almost a sales job to be done. There's a lot of follow-up which is there, right? So these are the three reasons why video production companies don't work.
That makes so much sense, right? Because the objective of why one is starting a podcast gets
Yeah,
lost.
yeah,
And then one may think that, podcasts don't work.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
about how you've approached it, who you've got on board to make it, right?
Very good. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to add to that, Rosh, right?
Yeah.
So, this is just from our own business development team
Mm,
speaking to clients, right?
mm,
So, one of the first things that a lot of them tend to say to us is, hey, we've tried podcasts. We
mm.
want to do podcasts, but it hasn't worked for us in the past, right?
Yes,
And we're
yes.
quite happy to hear that because we're like, okay, now let us come in and be the experts and guide you through this
Mm,
process of
mm,
doing it, right?
mm,
And you ask them 2 or 3 questions, and often we're like, okay, how did you try to do this internally? They're like,
mm,
yeah. And then we're like, oh,
mm.
cool. Now you know why it doesn't work internally, right? There are cases where they say, no, we got a video production agency. We're like, okay, did this happen? They'll be like,
Mm,
yeah, this is
mm.
exactly what happened, right? Because they could do, the video part for it, but they didn't understand any of the other parts, right? And therefore it became something that we couldn't do beyond the, third or seventh episode, right? So meeting after meeting with our lovely clients where they're saying the exact same thing to us, right? And that's why we know that it's the same trend whether it's the same trend all over the world.